Hello? Yeah? Nah, forget it, man. No, I'm not doing it again. No way, what's the point? Fun? As Eddie Murphy would say, forget you. What contract? Hello Safari fans, welcome back. You ready to have some fun? For today's recipe we're making monkey gland steak sauce. Monkey gland's a traditional South African steak sauce made with quite a few different bits and pieces in it. It's got a lovely savoury, almost with a hint of sweetness but not overdone on the sweetness sort of taste. Goes great with any red meats, grilled meats, things like burgers on the braai, the barbecue, anything you can think of really. It's almost like a beefed up, really nice ketchup but with a lot more going on in it. Like all of our sauces, it's quite complex. As you can see, we make a version of this sauce. Ours takes about 4 hours to prepare. It's got a few more ingredients than this in it, and a lot of the stuff's made from scratch as well, so we can't really show you. Well, we could show you that, but it'd be a very long video. So we're going to do a little simpler version of it. It still tastes good, but it's an awful lot quicker and easier to make. We call our sauce Nyummy Nyummy. The reason for that is we did a special up in Belladrum in Inverness, one of the music festivals that we do, and we were doing water buffalo rump with monkey gland sauce on it. It tasted absolutely amazing. We decided to change the name because when I was writing the menu in the morning, some people actually thought we were selling monkey, which of course we do not sell monkey. Hence Nyummy Nyummy, which is a slightly different spelling of a Zambezi river god, so can't go wrong with that. There's loads of stories going about how monkey gland got its name, some of which we can't repeat here. The story I think is probably true is that during the gold rush days in Johannesburg there was a rich guy who'd just got some nice new gold money. Did I say gold rush before?
Gold rush before.
Gold rush before. So there's a gold rush in Johannesburg and this guy's in this fancy French restaurant. This guy's in this Frenchy. Say it, you say it.
Fancy French restaurant.
Fancy French restaurant.
Fancy French restaurant.
Okay. This guy's in this... Well, hang on. So this guy's in the...
Fancy French restaurant.
And he's trying to flash his money about, try to impress people as the newly rich sometimes do. He'd had everything on the menu, still trying to impress his friends, so he told the waiter to bring him the most exotic thing that he had, and they didn't have much. So he went and spoke to the chef. He said, I'll sort something out for him, tell him we're going to do a monkey gland steak. What the chef didn't tell him was that there was no monkey in it. Trading standards wouldn't let us do that anymore. What he actually did was take a few kitchen staples, a few nice interesting things, some of the flavours of South Africa, chuck them all in a pot and make a fantastic sauce. So here it is today. So today we're going to need about a tablespoon of tomato puree, roughly a tablespoon of brown demerara sugar, some chopped nuts, I'll get onto that later, and some paprika. That's all about a tablespoon. Roughly half a clove of garlic, the juice of about a quarter of a lemon or a bit of lemon juice if you've got it. Now, you've probably got lemon juice and not the juice of a quarter of a lemon, but some sort of lemon. Some sort of onion, a big pinch of salt and pepper, some vinegar. For this one, a bit of sort of spicy fruit chutney if you can get a hold of that. It shouldn't be too difficult. That's roughly about 200 grams. The next ingredient's one that should be sort of internationally available. It's Worcester sauce. That is the correct pronunciation. I can't pronounce pronunciation, but Worcester sauce is the correct pronunciation of Worcestershire sauce or Worcestershire sauce or whatever anybody calls it. You only need a couple of drops for this one, so just get yourself a little bottle if you can. It's great stuff to have around, adds a nice flavoury flavour to different things. If you're a vegetarian though, you probably won't be eating steak, but if you're going to use this one, this does contain anchovies, so just watch yourself on that. And of course you're going to need some steak. Like I said before, this will go with any red meats. It pretty much goes with everything, to be honest with you. Anywhere that you would, if you're a ketchup user, I'm not personally, but if you were, anywhere you use ketchup, so on chips. We're using a couple of little sirloins here, and what we're going to do today is make some pregos or some steak rolls. Something I haven't mentioned before is there's a big Portuguese influence in South Africa and South African cooking as well. We used to go to a little Portuguese restaurant that was sort of built out of an old prison, so you used to have your tables in the cells. We don't have an oven when we're out in festivals, otherwise we'd probably do something like this. But when Safari are at home, we love to use this next ingredient. It goes great with anything. It can make nothing into something a little bit exciting or satisfying. It is the part-baked baguette. This is a part-baked baguette. We never call it that in this house. This is a PB. From now on, you'll know of this as a PB. Great little thing to have. You could stick stuff in a roll or various other bakery products. Put one of these out the oven, cut it in half, chuck in a little bit of medium rare steak with a bit of our sauce on the top, even some nice garlic chicken with a bit of lemon and oregano through it. Fantastic. Next thing you're going to need is some pot, or a daka as they call it in South Africa. Stick that on the heat for a second. So we're just going to add a little bit of oil, maybe about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil, and add some sliced onions to the pan. Cook them down for about 3 or 4 minutes and then add the tomatoes. So to that I'm going to add roughly about 200 grams of chopped tomatoes with the juice. Let that start coming to a boil before we add the other ingredients, because we're going to reduce this for a little while as well. Next to that I'm just going to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. This is sea salt we're using. This recipe is probably enough to serve between 2 and 6 people depending on how much sauce you want to use. I just go for a little bit. I like to let the steak still come through. It's pointless using good quality steaks if you're going to smother it in sauce. So just little drops of flavour always work best at Safari. To that I'm going to add the, in this case, chutney. A bit of spiced fruit chutney. It's going to add a little bit of tang, a touch of sweetness to it. After that, our dry ingredients. You might have noticed that our garlic looked a bit strange earlier and we were using chopped nuts. The garlic's very important in this recipe. It's so important that we forgot to get garlic. So we're using a bit of dried garlic here. So this is the paprika, the garlic, the sugar and the tomato puree all going in here as well. That's most of the dry ingredients gone in. Now I'm going to add roughly about a shot of Worcester sauce. It might seem like quite a lot, but that's going to add some great savoury flavours to this and cut through that sweetness from the sugar. If you're using lemon juice, I'd probably add that now as well, because lemon juice can take a bit of cooking. We're going to be using fresh lemon today, so we're going to add that towards the end of cooking. Fresh lemon in a sauce, unless you really know what you're doing with it, can make things taste a little bit strange, so we're going to leave that just to the end. Does that look too stupid?
Well, yes, but...
I'm going to do it. No, I'm not. So, I'm just going to add our PBs into our Bundu oven here. We know that in our oven these take exactly 16 minutes. While they cook, we're just going to let that sauce reduce down a little bit, let the flavours intensify a bit. So the sauce has probably got another couple of minutes to go. It's starting to reduce and thicken up there. I'm just going to squeeze our fresh lemon in there. Like I say, we're only using about a quarter of that. I would maybe go for a tablespoon and a half if you're using lemon juice. This sauce, as you might be able to see here, I'm not sure what the camera's showing, but is still quite chunky. If you wanted a smoother sauce, you could always run this through some sort of food processor now, give it a little bit of a blend, but remember it's going to be roasting hot, so you want to be careful if you're doing that. We like a little bit of chunk, a little bit of texture. So. Okay, so that's reduced as much as I wanted to do. If you want the flavours to intensify even more, you can always just leave it on as much as you feel safe with, but the closer you get to the end, just keep stirring it so it doesn't stick to the pan. If you're lucky enough to have a kitchen in your house, then you could always just leave this on a low simmer while you cook your steak or cook whatever else you're having. Otherwise, you can always just pop it on a trivet to keep it nice and cool. The opposite of cool. So we're just preheating our pan ready to put our steak in. We're going to cook that with a little bit of butter. I'm going to add some olive oil to that as well. That just stops the butter from burning. If we used all butter, it would burn. If you're not sure how to cook a steak, if it holds a mystery for you, then check out our how to cook a steak video up here. Where's the oil one? Pretty much you want at least a little bit of salt and pepper on your steak. You want that pan very hot, as hot as you're willing to go with it. Add the steaks in. If some people will tell you to seal it for 30 seconds and turn it over, you don't need to do that. Just make sure once the steak goes in, you move it around so it doesn't stick. And what we're going to do is just wait until you just see the blood rising around the thinner edges of the steak. Okay, so you can probably see now the steak's the blood's just starting to rise on that steak. We give it a little turn, and that looks pretty perfect on the outside. And we're just going to do the same again. If you're doing a steak sandwich, of course, one way to do it is to cut steak up into little bits and pieces and chuck it in. But the way we're going to do this, it's just going to add a little bit more je ne sais quoi. That sauce is really reducing down now while we cook our steak. It is, ooh la la, as they say in Africa. Well, parts of North and West Africa and maybe some of the things. Looks like I'm going to have to film this action myself. You may be able to see that the blood is just starting to rise on that other side now. I've turned the heat down. Okay, so that steak's had about 5 or 6 minutes to rest. We kept the heat in with that plate. When it rests, that just means that most of the juices are going to go back into the steak instead of pouring out onto the plate. We're not really fans of a lot of fats. We're just going to trim the fat off the steak here. And then once we get to that stage, I'm just going to cut it into thinnish slices or chunks. Can you do a beep beep noise for them? Now once we get to that stage, there's a little bit of juice left on that plate, which is a fantastic flavour, so I'm just going to throw the steak all over the place. Just throw it back on that plate before we serve it and it'll soak up some of those excess juices. Gotta do some acting.
Beep 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 beep.
That'll be the
Beep
beeps.
beep beep beep.
So it's been 16 minutes since we put them in. Let's see how they turn out. I'd say they look pretty good to me. So I'll just hold one of them in a cloth. Just hold one of them in a cloth. Chop it in half there. And then add that steak. Spread it out a little bit, and then it's time to add the monkey gland steak sauce. Chunky monkey. Did I forget something? Well, safari fans, it seems that the smell of that was so delicious that we didn't even have time to sign off. We went straight down and nibbled that. It was absolutely fantastic. This is a couple of days later and I haven't died yet, which is always a good sign. If you've got 2 hobs on the go, that should take you round about as much time as it takes to cook the steak and to rest it, so there's no excuses for not doing it. But if you really can't be bothered and you want to taste the artisan version, our version, Yummy Yummy, is fantastic and of course very reasonably priced. Here's our website address. In Safari news, our next event is the Tynemouth Food Festival, which is coming up the 7th and 8th of May. That's on the grounds of the Priory. Hopefully there's a photograph up here that will give you an idea of what's going on there. Thanks a lot for watching. If you know any good hairdressers, leave them in the comments below and we'll see you next time. Bye. Some tomatoes. That was quite a good one. It slowed down though. Some tomatoes. I'll try and do it slower because that might be a bit. Some tomatoes. What? Score! Some tomatoes. Oh. This can be the outtakes at the end. Some tomatoes. Some tomatoes. Some tomatoes. Some tomatoes. Whoa! Can you see me there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
No.
Some tomatoes. Some tomatoes. You bored? Mm-hmm. Some tomatoes! There you go, a bit of energy for you. Right, let's go. You can switch off now.
It's too big, goosey.